It wasn't the first time that Ryan Reynolds created a fake character based on someone he didn't like in real life. That's at least according to this Medium article that I came across from one of my dosers yesterday. It is really well done and it exposes Ryan Reynolds in a way that I had not seen before. And it's shocking that we can still see parts of Ryan Reynolds that are unlikable. We have so much to talk about that, plus an update on the Tepe murders. Of course, that's the dentist and his wife in Ohio. There's going to be a lot to talk about today. And also just and I've got some rage bait for you. So if you like some rage bait where you can just type away about how annoyed you are about certain things, definitely stay tuned. You guys, I have so much to tell you. We're going to talk about everything. My name is Donna Bowling, and this is Daily Dose of Donna. Let's start the show. How is everyone doing on this beautiful Thursday? It is really such a gorgeous, gorgeous day here in Los Angeles. And I know it's not gorgeous wherever you are or everywhere, because I will tell you, my friend Molly Dare, she is in 8-degree weather in New Jersey, covered in snow. So I have no idea what's going on other parts of we have like a snow tundra, we have snowstorms, we have crazy stuff everywhere. And it's high 70s and sunny here in Los Angeles. I don't know what to tell you. Okay. No, we get good weather, but we get a lot of bad things. Okay. Our taxes are high. Hold on. I got to close my door because my dog decided to say hi. Just in 1 second. Every time I attempt to do a show with my beautiful French doors open in my office, because it's so gorgeous out, I'm like, it would be so nice if I just didn't have a dog that barked at everything that walked by. You know? You know how it is. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is really exciting news. I hit 60,000 subscribers overnight on YouTube. And that's because of you and 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 you. 60,000, almost 60.1 thousand subscribers overnight. I am so grateful for all of you. It really means a lot. And I'm at 77.7 thousand subscribers on Instagram, which, to be honest, feels amazing and also like lucky. And I'm thinking 777. I love sevens, 3s and 7s. Those are my numbers. Today is an off day. I actually came from Beverly Hills. I went to Beverly Hills early this morning to meet with she's actually a plastic surgeon. And she does amazing plastic surgery because she's done a bunch of my friends. But I got some Botox with her this morning, and just driving through Beverly Hills. It's so funny because I grew up here in LA and I did go to school in Beverly Hills, but I never lived in Beverly Hills. I was always like, the poor girl on the outside track in West Hollywood. I love Beverly Hills so much. It's so beautiful. If you go there, if you're ever there early in the morning when the sun is up and it's just like with your coffee, walking the streets. And I thought to myself, like, this is amazing. It's amazing that I live here and that we live amongst like this iconic area. And then I thought I was a Pretty Woman. And then I thought I was Julia Roberts, and I was like, big mistake, huge. And I did the whole thing to myself in my head. I didn't really go into any stores, but that's mostly because they were closed. It was just a really nice morning. I had a great morning. Great morning. Now that we're back though at this desk, I'm about to rage us up. Okay. So if you are here and if you are new here, just know that once in a while, in addition to giving you all the information about everything, I like to get under your skin. Why? Because if I have to do it, so do you. We're on this journey together as dosers. Okay. We're on the journey together. So I say we start holding hands. We can do this. Okay. We can do this. I want you guys to think really fast about some of the people that have not shifted their opinions of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds from day one, meaning all of the evidence that has come out, all of the depositions, all of the text messages and the emails. There are some people out there that will not change their minds because Blake, in their minds, is the only victim here. She was, according to them, this is not my words, she was harassed. She was, emotionally abused on the set of It Ends With Us. And I find it really fascinating that no matter what new information you're getting, it's not shifting your brain. Now, I really want to say very fast, I was on a podcast yesterday. It's called In Three, a Canadian podcast, these two girls. And I will tell you, I spoke to them about this, how through the process, I'm always open to change my mind about Justin. And honestly, I do think that you cannot change the validity if these girls were truly uncomfortable on set. For example, Jenny Slate. Somehow, I think this woman, like, I don't know, completely changed her personality and everything about her to all of a sudden be so sensitive around a comment about her wardrobe from her director being hot. But if that's the case and she was really uncomfortable, and if he was really if Blake was really uncomfortable, I can't take that away from them. That's like you telling me, Donna, you're not cold right now if I'm cold. It's a personal feeling to be uncomfortable. So for that reason, I'm not going to go after someone for changing their feelings as if they're uncomfortable or not. However, I do believe that there is you have to be able to look at something and say, like, is this an accurate version of feeling uncomfortable, or are you just trying to find things to hate this guy for? Right? Like, if I'm in 80-degree weather with 6 sweatshirts and I say I'm cold, you're probably going to question my ability to read temperature correctly because it doesn't connect. It doesn't relate. And actually, before I go into rage bait, I'll start with something a little bit lighter, not rage bait. And that's Andy from Popcorn Planet, because we did go over, yesterday we went over the notes that Angie Giannetti had written to Blake Lively, to Justin Baldoni on his script about making sure this is a really hot, sexy, heated movie. It can't be R-rated because of the language, but it can be like sexy, 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 sexy. And Andy really puts this in like a really good perspective. So first, let me run. This is not the rage bait. This is a good bait. But first, let's run over to Instagram and just watch what Andy spoke about yesterday, just putting this together. I think it's really, it makes a lot of sense of why this is so frustrating of a case for everyone.
Guys, I know a lot of you are so tired of this Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni drama, but can you humor me for 1 minute? Because yet another piece of evidence just dropped that should make you furious at Blake Lively for wasting so much time and money and resources that could have been better spent helping women than helping Blake Lively's ego. Now, we're in court, you got to remember, because Justin Baldoni here called Blake Lively's wardrobe sexy. I kid you not. This was actually talked about last week in court. I was there where the judge was talking about the main issues of this sexual harassment lawsuit. And that is one of them, that Justin Baldoni called Blake Lively's wardrobe sexy. So I want you to look at this new evidence, and shout out over there to Docket Updates, Carol and Clark, for getting us this new filing because it was too big for court listener. This is a script page. Okay, as you can see here, It Ends With Us. And this is a script page from Ange at Sony. She's one of the executives who was there the whole time. And she's writing, Justin, I'm very pleased. Wonderful work. Tell Blake, thank you. The bigger question is, other than language, this does not read like an R-rated movie. Readers of the book, biggest book of last year, are expecting some heat, capital heat. We cannot have an R rating for language. That would be a huge mistake. I'm guessing the love scenes are still in progress and will be choreographed, and ultimately that'll be up to you and Blake to decide. And I'm hoping they're sexy and grown up. I know they'll be tasteful, but I'm asking you to also think about the moments that are outside the actual bedroom, moments that feel grown up and sexy. So we deliver for an audience that is expecting an R-rated movie. So is that sexual harassment too? The fact that Sony is requesting Blake's and Justin's characters to be sexy? Now, I also urge you to look at Blake Lively's own text messages with her own agents, where she's
Now
worried about her
this-
body, getting in shape for the thing. No fault there.
This is really interesting, this part, because we went over what he just talked about yesterday for anyone that wasn't here yesterday. But this is a text message with her own agents on February 17th, 2023. Remember, this is around the time when she left that voicemail. I think it was this is 10 or so days later. She's very good with Justin at this point. Okay. Very good with Justin.
But here she is texting her own agents, talking about the sexiness in this film, and the marketing, I'm sure, is critical to its success. So by Justin saying your wardrobe is sexy, Blake, couldn't that just be him complimenting you because you are now doing something that is critical to the film's success? And I want to leave you with this final piece. Baldoni, Truth Matters. Thank you for calling this out. Listen to this.
He's got a lovely wife and a beautiful little baby girl, but we probably shouldn't talk about that because we want people to only look at him for his sexy, sweaty, steamy body in the trailer and like, get girls in the theater for that. It was a very convenient.
Shameful of you, Blake and Ryan. We are in court wasting millions of dollars. You're trying to ruin people's lives for your own ego because you messed up on marketing. And we're here because he called your wardrobe sexy, which is something you did regularly, which is something Sony demanded. That's something you said is critical to the film's success. Shame on you. You should all be demanding accountability from both Blake and Ryan Reynolds. Guys, I know a lot of you are
so that was a really good recap of Blake Lively's, deciding this is great and this isn't, I'm just messaging with actually all of them, Andy and Lauren and okay. So, because I had a question about something and my Nordstrom Avengers are responding, my creators that are talking about this. So, it just goes to show that if I am like right now, I started the show talking about my Botox. Can you imagine if someone said to me, Donna, are you getting Botox? And I was like, that is so rude. But I brought it up. Like, I'm bringing this to you. You're allowed to talk to me the way I'm bringing it to you. I spoke about that yesterday, how we kind of read the room based on who we're talking to. And I think that Justin was given the impression that he could talk about being sexy in your outfit. Now, we are going to continue now to the tough part of the show, which is the rage bait part. Okay. Now, I can't stand Nick Viall. And I cannot stand his wife, Natalie. We have heard too many things, too many of their takes, and too many of their comments that are absolutely horrendous. Okay. And I really don't believe that they have a good, smart take on a lot of things, but especially when it comes to this case, they've made their decision very, very early on about how they feel about Justin Baldoni. I would say even more about Justin Baldoni than about Blake, but I think he has a crush on Ryan Reynolds, and that's not serious, but like a crush in the sense of, just obsessed with him. So today he started to speak on his episode. I think it's today or yesterday. He and his wife spoke again about this case, but this time it's about the driver's deposition, which I haven't really covered in detail here because I think it's a big crock of BS. But I do want you guys to hear first the insane words that Nick Viall says about why, not only about the case, I mean, he's reading the driver's deposition as if it's a Bible fact, but also I want you guys to hear about the way that he describes people like us that are not changing our minds on our opinions of Justin Baldoni, even with information like that. I sped it up to 1.25. Hopefully it's not too fast, but Nick Viall talks with, marbles in his mouth, so it's kind of hard to understand. Let's go.
Put out. The statement reads, Blake Lively's driver, Kevin Alexander, recounted an alleged disturbing conversation he had with Justin Baldoni while It Ends With Us was in production. Baldoni was discussing his sexual relations with women, Alexander alleged in a deposition, noting that he can't forget the conversation because it took my focus off driving. Alexander claimed that Baldoni said he was forced on and he forced himself on women. The driver confirmed that this car ride, in which Blake Lively and one other person was present, was the first time he had met Baldoni. To me, it was very out of the ordinary to meet somebody and to talk like that in a vehicle. That's why it caught my attention, Alexander continued. Basically, he kept talking about his sexual relations. I'm repeating myself, I believe, but he would force himself on women.
If they said no, that, he would revert back.
Like, huh?
That's disturbing.
This is, again, reminder. This was, regardless of how Blake Lively, how famous she is, doesn't matter who her husband is, doesn't matter how much money she has. Justin Baldoni was her director, her executive producer. He was her boss. He ran the company that produced this movie. He hired her. So like, and then he...
And I just want you guys to take a look if you're watching here on
he's
YouTube.
Getting in a car. The guy,
I just by mistake unpaused it, but I want you to like recognize how
that
happy
produced
Nick is talking about this. Like, yeah. He is such an awful human being. Like, he's getting off on this idea that this driver's words are Bible. He's not for 1 second thinking, well, this driver literally is Blake and Ryan's employee. He worked for Blake and Ryan. He's just taking it like the driver said it. It's true. It's 100% true. And he's like, I told you guys. But it continues. Just wait.
Produced this movie. He hired her. So like, and then he's getting in a car. The guy who, again, has written books about like how to be pro women and gives TED Talks about like positive masculinity and how that he's an ally of women. And then he gets in a car and talks about like how he's forced himself on women, allegedly.
He continued, Alexander claimed that Baldoni talked about more stuff during the car ride, but he did not pay attention. Then he said, in quotes, it is those key points when someone says, you know, forcing myself on women, women forced on me. I didn't care. And he continued, it is disturbing to me. You can't forget something like that.
Yikes.
Damn.
You definitely can't forget something like that when Ryan Reynolds tells you to say that in a deposition with a big amount of money behind his back. I mean, that's just my guess. I have no idea. But it's truly like they're literally just listening to this driver, like this random dude. They have no back with him. They have no idea who he is. It continues, guys. Are we okay? Everyone take a deep breath. Xanax is available in the lobby.
Come up. Like, that's like such an uncomfortable topic.
Well, as someone who's read his...
Why did that come up? The woman says, that's a good question. Why would that come up in a 20-minute drive from her apartment to the studio? Why the hell would that come up? I don't know. Maybe because it didn't. Let's keep going.
His book and has watched some of his TED Talks in preparation for the interview I did with him a while back. His whole like shtick was like being this kind of reformed fuckboy.
Nick despises Justin Baldoni so much, and it's not because of the alleged claims that Blake Lively has towards him. He hates Justin Baldoni for his own insecure reasons. It's very Ryan Reynolds-esque.
And I think in that vein, I think he got a little too comfortable. And this is me guessing. This is my interpretation. So who knows? But like this whole like, I used to be bad. Now I'm good. You know, it's like I've been saved almost. Now that I'm an ally for women, I can speak freely about some of the things I did in the past.
Gotcha.
That, you know,
we're wrong.
That were bad. But because I'm not like that anymore, you know, I just want to get it off my chest, so to speak. And if you've listened to the show and you think that, you know, if you've been Team Justin and you think we just have this biased point of view, just like, why? Because Blake has money? Like, if you have fame and power and money, does that mean that you don't have the right to feel safe?
I want to die. Yeah, why? I think that all of us are not on Blake Lively's side because she has money, right? That's what it is. It's just because she has money. 100%. Yeah, you got us, Nick. You got us.
Around men or in general? Like, in what world would that be okay for someone to speak like that around you and not feel uncomfortable? And then when, again, you ask them to stop, their response is to hire Melissa Nathan, this PR company that has a track record of like PR smear campaigns. Like, those dots have been connected and it's not even.
What the fuck are you talking about, Nick? Nick? You literally just said when they ask you to stop, his response was to hire PR. This is coming from a doofus. I'm sounding like Blake Lively. A clown, a doofus. This is a man that has never read the documents, y'all. He's admitted it. He never read the documents. You know he's not reading depositions. He's reading headlines. He's reading page 6 and Ryan's texts. That's it. Okay? So you literally think that Blake Lively and Jenny Slate, for example, said, please stop doing that. And Justin Baldoni then said, I'm hiring Melissa Nathan as my response to you asking me to stop. Read the documents. If you're going to be on such a high, big profiled YouTube account, if you have such a platform, you got to know what you're talking about. That's why I don't talk about freaking the climate changes in Antarctica. Okay, I don't know shit about it. You talk about what you know about, and you don't know anything. Sorry, how do I really feel? Let's keep going.
Even disputable. The only thing people are disputing are intentions and timelines, which is just like crazy to me. But anyway,
crazy.
More and more of this information comes out. There are more witnesses coming forward.
There's more and more information keeps coming out. There are more witnesses coming forward. Hold.
One more little bit of the quote. Alexander recalled sharing his thoughts about Baldoni with Lively after the car ride. When we got to the production office, which was down the road from that area, I pulled over, let everybody out. The deposition read, I stated to Blake, I feel very uncomfortable. Something is not right here. I would like to do a background check on him or something. And later to learn that he was the producer in production of this movie. So he was weirded the fuck out and was like, who's this freak? And then
you don't think the driver and her security had any idea who he was picking up with Blake Lively to drive from her apartment to studio? What kind of security driver? What kind of security guy? You do a bad job. You don't know the man that's coming with you? Like, excuse me?
And he was like, oh shit. Anyway.
But anyways, yeah, if just listen, if there, I don't know what's inside your heart that just stopped.
He's so happy.
Stopping you from wanting to believe this woman who's come forward. And I don't know if it's because you like Justin's eyes or what.
Excuse me? Excuse me? We don't believe Blake because we like Justin's eyes? Is that what you just said to us?
Or you think he has nice hair. But just,
his hair? You think we're that freaking stupid, Nick?
It's like you think it's some big conspiracy, you know? It's like, so yeah, I'm sure more and more information will come out, and just maybe consider the possibility that he is not this sweet, gentle guy that he claims to be. And there is so much dirt on this guy from, if you just pay attention. His ex-co-host, Liz Plank, has spoken up about the dark side of Justin Baldoni. Like,
are we okay? Because I'm about to tear him a new one in a second.
All these people in cahoots? Like, are they all just lying? Or is maybe Justin and his best friends not the people they claim to be? Anywho.
Well,
Anywho, now that I said my piece, and now that I just fully ripped Justin a new one, and he is donezo because I just proved to you through Kevin Alexander, this random driver that is on Blake's payroll, that Justin Baldoni is a creep. I'm going to tell you one thing really fast. He just said it. What do you think? All these people are in cahoots? That's the only true thing you just said, Nick Viall. Yes. Yes, you dummy. Yes. Yes. And honestly, I will say one thing. I never thought it would be possible for so many people to be in cahoots until this case and Karen Reed's case, because these are two cases that I truly believe multiple people are in on the same thing. You guys, this stuff happens. It happens, and we see evidence of it happening. We see evidence of Blake Lively. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, taking down everyone's opinions of Justin Baldoni in front of us. But guess who has never covered one of Ryan Reynolds' text messages to his agents, one of his emails to Colleen or to Sony, or any one of his disgusting. Do you think Nick Viall mentioned Matt Damon? Do you think he mentioned Ben Affleck? Do you think he mentioned all of the smearing that was happening? No, it's called selective reporting. Now, I have talked about it all, and the driver. Let's talk about this driver really fast. I didn't cover the driver in detail because I think everyone is more interested in all the Ryan and Blake text messages, but the driver did. Kevin Alexander, this guy that is her driver and security, he has a bald head, and he's over on in a lot of the press photos. He is working with Blake Lively. I don't know how long. I don't know for how long or whenever. Whatever. But the point is, he was depositioned. Depoed? What do you call it? Depositioned, right? So it's very important to understand that, I believe, well, I can't say that people lie under depositions, but I would imagine people lie under depositions. Okay. This is not the first time. Anyone that is guilty of murdering their wives and is being deposed. Oh, you have to say deposed. That's the word. It came out on my own. See, I don't know it all. But anyone that is being deposed and just say you're guilty of a crime, but you're being deposed, you're not going to sit there and just tell the truth, right? You're not going to be like, yeah, so I did murder her, but I'm still going to go through this trial and say not guilty. No, of course, you're going to lie under in your deposition because you have a story to tell. You have a side that you've chosen. And I'm not saying everyone's lying. I'm just saying some people are definitely probably either lying, stretching the truth, creating stories. This Kevin Alexander is an employee of Blake and Ryan's. Do you not think that matters at all? He is not a third party. He's not someone that was hired on the movie separately through his union or whatever. He is in one person's payroll. And it's very, very important that we keep that in mind as we read through this. But the most important thing is that even though Kevin Alexander said some of the most awful things that Justin has ever said on camera, off camera, in any of his podcasts, in his book, like he never said the things that this driver is saying that he said. Blake Lively, in her deposition, and trust me, I went through it like very, very strongly because, and there may be a lot of it redacted, but the parts that I'm seeing, I Googled and I have 113 pages of Blake Lively's deposition. And out of 113 pages that I'm seeing, she doesn't mention the word car, not once. She doesn't mention the word driver, not twice. She doesn't mention this car ride. It's not in her deposition. Okay. So that being said, was it such a real moment or was it a moment to kind of further Ryan Reynolds' adoration of this man, Kevin Alexander? That's a good question. And then finally on the Liz Plank of it all, I do believe that Liz Plank was in on it. We see with our own eyes because we read the documents, Nikki, but we watch with our own eyes how Liz Plank plays two sides. On the same day, she's texting Blake Lively about how she's so sorry that she's in this situation with these two men, da, 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 da. And then a couple months later, 4 months later even, she's still doing the podcast with one of these horrible men. And now the second one, Justin Baldoni, comes on and she goes, Justin, and this is 4 months after she's been messaging with Blake. Justin, so good to see you. Aww. You know, everyone loves you, Justin, she says. You know, everyone loves you. At my birthday party, everyone was so excited to have you. Kiss my ass. Let's get into this article that I found really interesting. And thank you so much to my doser who sent it to me. I wish I could find her name really fast because she sent it to me and she's so sweet to do that. It was last night. I get 4 million emails a day. Priscilla. It was from Priscilla. So Priscilla, thank you for listening from India. She listens to the show. And she sent me this email with this link to an article, a Medium article. If you guys don't know what Medium is, it's a website that you can write your own like Substacks, basically articles. You can write about whatever. So this is a really interesting read because what it discusses in this is basically, let me put it in front of you guys just so you can see the title and then I'll recap it for you guys, the ones that haven't read it. It's by Eumonia Dike. I believe that's her last name. And if I'm saying it wrong, I'm really sorry. Eumonia Dike. But it's really well done. And it says, before Nicepool, there was Dude. Did Ryan Reynolds create a caricature of Dwayne Johnson too? And this is important because we've heard in the past that Ryan Reynolds and Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, do not get along very well, right? And the big part of this, why it's so important, why it's so frustrating that Justin Baldoni's case got dismissed against Ryan Reynolds is because when you're watching the Deadpool versus Wolverine, you see Nicepool, you meet Nicepool, and Nicepool is Justin Baldoni. Okay, there's absolutely no question. We know that it's Justin Baldoni. The only thing we haven't seen is actual confirmation of Ryan Reynolds saying to his buddy, yes, this is Justin Baldoni. But we know that he has alluded to it in his words, and we know that this character is 1000% based on what he deems as this feminist, fake feminist, Justin. So in this article, it's really like there's a lot and it's long. So I really want to summarize it for you guys very fast. Before Nicepool, before all of the Baldoni chatter, okay, there may have been just another caricature hiding in plain sight. So this is not really just about the fact that there's this guy dude that he wrote. It's more about the fact that this is a pattern of Ryan Reynolds, and Ryan Reynolds seems to be, it's just showing that he is a man that is, he's a writer, a director, a creator, a producer, all these things. And he uses his humor to rewrite, take over creative control, and bully people, basically, behind the scenes. So I personally have not seen Free Guy. If you guys have seen Free Guy, let me know. I have not. I know my kids watched it for a little bit. It's like some sort of mix between, how is it described here? It's mixed between Free Guy. Okay. It's Guy is a non-player character bank teller in a violent and chaotic video game world whose sole purpose is to get robbed by the game's players multiple times a day for their missions. When he discovers the truth about his existence, Guy decides to take control of his own destiny and break free from the predetermined role. Okay, so this is the movie that is, they call it a mashup of Ready Player One and The Truman Show. And then there's also another movie that came out at the same time, and it's called Red Notice. And Red Notice, they're saying, is and the reason why they came out at the same time, that they were only 3 months apart when they came out. Basically, they were intended to be released in different years, but in 2021, they came out at the exact same time, 3 months apart because of COVID. So production schedules changed, etc. Even though Free Guy went into production first, and then after that, Red Notice. Red Notice is about the Red Notice is technically in the same genre as Free Guy, as an action comedy adventure, she says, but has a more sultry adult feel. It's a twisty, fast-paced cat and mouse spy romp between an Interpol agent played by Dwayne Johnson and it's crafted in the same tongue-in-cheek vein as Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, National Treasure, and Ocean's 11. The film takes the audience around the world with flashy high-speed chases, prison escapes, and foreign backdrops for backstabbing characters and their constantly shifting alliances. It says that both movies have large blockbuster budgets with big names attached. They both had crazy huge budgets, over $100 million. So Ryan first got involved with Free Guy, okay, from the beginning. Like from the top, from the bottom, basically. He found a project that allowed him, finally, to be in control of every single stage of production right from the outset. Now, the project began when Hugh Jackman, our bestie Hugh, introduced Ryan to Sean Levy. Now, Sean Levy is the producer, director. We know he's involved with a bunch of different other, movies, Night at the Museum, Pink Panther, Just Married, Cheaper by the Dozen. He's worked on over 40 movies and films, 40 movies and TV shows. Obviously, Sean Levy is like a big deal. And also, if you guys don't remember, Sean Levy, he actually called Justin Baldoni at the beginning of It Ends With Us production to talk about like how to deal with Blake, which is very, very strange. Like, not just how to deal with Blake, but like how to direct Blake, essentially. It seems very out of place that you would do that, but that's what he did. So the screenplay for Free Guy first landed on Sean Levy's desk, but he passed on it. But then Reynolds pitched it to him in July 2018. And then Sean Levy agreed to take on the project. So he passed on it, but then picked it up to work on Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds. So they've talked about how they worked so well on this. They just loved it. It was such a great experience. Sean and I became like in a work marriage, Ryan Reynolds says, and how they're so happy. And, Ryan Reynolds is love bombing and he's basically obsessed. And now it says that their love fest of a collaboration was so enticing that Sean Levy permanently moved to New York, setting up residence 100 yards away, which is half a block from Ryan Reynolds. Okay. Half a block away from Ryan Reynolds, which is honestly weird. Just saying, like, I think it's a little weird. And Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy, the three of them had this like nice obsession over each other. They loved each other. And here is, hold on. Here is a picture. I have too many tabs open on my computer. Have you ever done that? Here is a picture of the three of them loving on each other, like a nice little threesome. Okay. Just so you know what we're dealing with here. By the way, thank you so much for subscribing and liking the video. And I see some super chats coming in. I'm going to get to them in just a momentito. But this is, let me just get through this story a little bit longer. So they had this creative love affair, right? The three of them. And so they're rewriting the crap of this out of this movie. And they didn't even keep the original writer as the primary screenwriter. They even hired another writer. They hired this guy, Zach Penn. And Penn had helped pen the script for another 2018 video game movie, Ready Player One. So he kind of knows the video game world and he came in. Now, during the promo tour, it says Reynolds would finalize the erasure of the script's origin story to suggest it never happened. He says, we're not actually based on a video game, so it's hard to put it in that category of a video game movie. So he kind of just pushes the original storyline out, which is interesting, right? That he does that. Then it says, okay, hold on. In the end, the final film and the promotional tour made it clear that the project had little to no genuine connection to gaming. It was no longer a game, a game movie. And he was just he tried to move out of that. And gamer audiences weren't really happy about that because they really wanted it to be a video game movie. I guess they had been following this and the team just didn't really understand video games that were actually working on the project. Sean Levy says, I'm not a video gamer. I'm not a hardcore gamer. I don't really know what I'm doing. And meanwhile, the original writer, Lieberman, who was a big gaming guy, was not even used. Like they didn't use him. They didn't care. They just totally stole his story and created something new. Shocker. Okay. And then they also changed the movie in so many ways by adding all these Disney and Marvel references. For example, Reynolds' character Guy wields Captain America's shield, the Hulk's green fist, and a lightsaber, even poaching the iconic Star Wars theme song to go along with it. They got the permission to reference $40 billion worth of IP because they were a 20th Century Fox movie and Disney bought Fox during that time. So they completely changed the game. The movie, they made it more of like this Disney Marvel situation and, whatever. Okay. But regardless, even though they weren't really fully allowed to use everything that they asked for, Disney did choose to market the movie heavily and it was pushed across everywhere and everyone, it says they used Xbox and Under Armour and Fortnite and Grubhub and all of these marketing pushes to replicate it. But it says that the article says the incredible irony is that one of the main messages in the original script was that it was an original story is better than a hollow money grabbing franchise or sequel. That was literally one of the main messages in the original script. And meanwhile, that's exactly what they did. It says, rather than understand or honor Lieberman's message about the value of original storytelling, what's important is that Ryan Reynolds got what he wanted, a very expensive advertisement for himself and Disney. And Free Guy was Free Guy was a dream come true for Reynolds and his desire for what he and his wife call authorship. Okay. He's only officially credited for the lead actor and a PGA marked producer. Yet he was able to get his hands on every job on the movie. He upended the entire script. He made casting decisions. He selected the music, and he was in the editing bay. Okay. Interesting. So with that mindset, he then went to work as an actor on Red Notice. So I hope you guys are sticking with me. If you have any questions, I'm going to take a second to look at the chat and pull up the super chats, because now we're going to get into how he went into production on Red Notice with the mindset of how he went through Free Guy, which is I'm free to do whatever the F I want. Thank you so much. Trent, who's a member for a month, says, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe if you haven't. Mary for $4.99 super chat. Thank you. She says, I just subscribed. I like you. I like you too. Was that today or yesterday? I can't tell. And then Sharvable says, have you heard or seen the YouTube video of how Blake and Ryan tried to ruin the Barbie movie? I think I have, but I don't have that on me today. So we're not going to get into that today. But Sledge wants to say, and this is not a super chat, but I just wanted to pull this out. She says, he says, Donna, he stole Deadpool 2, allegedly. Yes, of course he did. We've talked about that so much, how Tim Miller was the original director of Deadpool 1, the best one out of the three, in my opinion. And by Deadpool 2, he was no longer associated with the project. Why? Because he had creative differences with Ryan Reynolds. Weird. As they say, that's weird, right? Feels like it is a 1000% just his MO. Let's keep going though. In Red Notice, so Red Notice begins with, Red Notice is based on a 2018 movie called Skyscraper, which was an action. And it's not based on, but this is how it kind of started in production, essentially, because that movie starred Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, and written by Ross and Marshall Thurber. Coincidentally, is married to a girl I went to high school with, Rawson. Anyway, they had worked together on Central Intelligence with Kevin Hart. So Ross and Thurber, the writer and director of Skyscraper, began drafting the script for Red Notice during that movie because they enjoyed their collaboration so much. So then he pitched Red Notice to The Rock. They pitched it to studios. A massive bidding war ensued, and then the project launched and started casting. So Gal Gadot came on board first through her agent, and then Ryan Reynolds was more personal and began on a different set because he had played a cameo role in another movie, Hobbs and Shaw, which is a spinoff of Fast and Furious. He played a cameo, okay? And it was on that set that The Rock pitched Red Notice to Ryan Reynolds to say join as the third lead actor. Okay. So I'm trying to not give you guys every little detail. So The Rock, who has a long-standing friendship with Kevin Hart, understands banter, pranks, and competitive rivalries. So when Ryan Reynolds expanded his cameo role on that Hobbs and Shaw and morphed it into an opportunity to lob endless one-liners in The Rock's direction and at his expense, including emasculating Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Rebecca and implying he has an STI. I'm pulling that up in a second. And just so you guys can see a little piece of this. Hopefully we're able to show this. Here is a little piece of this moment from that movie.
Lucas Rebecca Hobbs, I haven't seen you in forever.
Rebecca?
Do you even age? How long's it been?
6 months.
Time flies.
When we're apart.
What is your skincare regimen? Because you look like a young Shirley Temple.
Okay. So sorry to give you guys all of that, Ryan. I know that that's hard for you to watch now, but it's nice to be able to, click out real fast. Dwayne Johnson probably didn't see the signs that there was something less than some friendly, back and forth, because he's friends with Kevin Hart. They love to prank each other. In fact, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, talked about the laughs and the chemistry of the collaboration, which helped lead to Ryan Reynolds being offered the Red Notice role. Okay. So we know, by the way, that those jokes that we just saw, that they came from Ryan Reynolds, because another person, a writer, I believe, says he rewrote his entire cameo. It says that because, of course, Ryan doesn't know how to do anything without, creating his own content. So we do know that Ryan Reynolds definitely rewrote that for himself. Okay. It says, doing what Ryan does best, he really recrafted them into something special that had a ton of jokes and pop culture references and this weird dynamic of this character who's kind of quasi-obsessed with The Rock. That's all from Ryan's mind. So Reynolds was obsessed with The Rock. He added a part where his character has a matching tattoo with The Rock. Reynolds uploaded this to Instagram with a caption, and here it is. My gosh, this is a lot of screen sharing. I hope you guys are sticking around. This is such an interesting article, though. Okay, this is a picture of The Rock and Ryan Reynolds in 2019, August 2019, where Ryan says, "I can only imagine how upset I was to discover this." And he's pretending like they have the same tattoo. So clearly BFFers, okay? What's interesting is that Ryan Reynolds was not credited as a writer here, or was his cameo credited? Okay. Perhaps, why is that? That's so unlike Ryan. And it says, perhaps there's a reason for that. The biggest thing that went wrong for Red Notice was one that nobody could predict or prevent: COVID. Okay. Principal photography began on January 3rd, 2020, but then was shut down on March 14th, only 6 weeks into the project. Most of the progress done in that first half of filming involved stage work, like lighting, sound, etc. Filming didn't resume until September 14th, 2020. So now we're talking about 6 months later. And when it did, many of the planned on-location scenes in France, Sardinia, and Italy, the last of which was getting particularly hard hit by the pandemic, and where the bulk of the film was supposed to take place, had to be scrapped. Instead, the production hunkered down in Atlanta, Georgia, and built entire sets from scratch on a soundstage and in a parking lot. So they literally had to refilm or recreate Italy in an Atlanta parking lot. And there's pictures here of the Castel Sant'Angelo in Rome, alongside this article, which, by the way, after this episode, I'm going to put the article's link in the show notes so you guys can read the entire thing for yourself with pictures and links, etc. Okay, we're back. Okay. It says, obviously, challenges were going to happen because now we're changing the location. Now, all of a sudden, it's COVID, But it says the challenges didn't stop there. Johnson and Reynolds had an intense falling out during filming. This was kept quiet at the time, but now that's changed due to 2 new publicized pieces of information. The first is a widely disseminated hit piece against Dwayne Johnson, published by The Wrap in April 2023, implying that Johnson was at fault due to unprofessionalism on set and his extreme tardiness. Do you guys remember this when this article came out? And it's interesting because I remember reading this and being like, wow, I've never really heard many bad things about The Rock. So this is kind of interesting. It says, read one down, how Dwayne Johnson's tardiness led to a $250 million runway production exclusive. And I remember being like, so unlike him. Like, I've always only really heard good things about The Rock. I really haven't heard anything bad. So it says, although the article is ostensibly about a different movie set, it mentions that Ryan was infuriated during Red Notice and got into a huge fight with Dwayne Johnson. And then the second is an excerpt from Justin Baldoni's recently unsealed deposition where he revealed that Stephanie Jones, who used to be the publicist for both Justin Baldoni and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, told him that Reynolds terrorized Johnson, resulting in Ryan Reynolds and Johnson not doing much press together. So Justin Baldoni in his deposition said that he had heard that Ryan Reynolds was terrorizing to The Rock. And it says it's kind of similar to his relationship with all these other people, including Justin Baldoni. It starts really friendly. But Dwayne Johnson revealed that on the first day of filming, he received news that his father died. His father died. He had to leave set for 5 days, and when he returned, Ryan Reynolds was waiting for him with a hug and words of support. But that's the last time we've ever heard of The Rock giving Ryan Reynolds a nice, positive review. The Wrap article and then a TMZ follow-up made Ryan Reynolds' version of events clear, but it's not easy to get information from Dwayne Johnson. He's not really talking about why he felt this way about Ryan Reynolds, even though he actually remains a very strong professional, providing positive and diplomatic answers about Reynolds, even complimenting him many times. Very similar to how Justin Baldoni continued to talk about Blake Lively, even though they hated each other basically on that set. But it says little comments here and there from Dwayne Johnson paint a different picture, one that can only be seen by poring over these interviews and seeing the hidden pattern emerge. When asked about what The Rock had learned about his Red Notice co-stars, he answered, "I can tell you that after knowing Ryan for over 20 years, I did not know that when we actually did an entire movie together, we would bicker and argue." He actually admits that out loud in an interview here. In an interview with No Filter for Netflix.
So what random fact that I could tell you that I learned about my my co-stars in Gall and Ryan? I could tell you that after knowing Ryan for over 20 years, I did not know that when we actually did an entire movie together, we would bicker and argue, and then of course love each other like an old couple.
Okay. So you can imagine that if you're saying that, even though it's like fun and friendly, it's very clear. He had to say that, we made up, we were good. When he was asked if the cast had nicknames for each other, he said that Gal Gadot was Queen and Ryan was Asshole. Okay. Ryan apparently was taken back to hear that he was that. Johnson called Reynolds an asshole again in an interview with Vanity Fair when recounting a social media exchange that occurred between them during filming. When they were asked about each other's annoying habits, Dwayne Johnson first responded by saying that Gal Gadot doesn't have one. Okay. Her most annoying habit is she's perfect. Ryan's most annoying habit, he says, is anytime he breathed. Hold on. I'm going to show you guys this one.
Annoying habit. She's perfect. Ryan's most annoying habit, anytime he breathed.
Okay. So he's definitely making these comments. I mean, it's not like a one-off, and it's in multiple different interviews, and it's very clear that, he says it again, when his first impression of Reynolds. He didn't say anything about it. He started talking about Gal Gadot, but then he said, Ryan, on the other hand, asshole. The opposite of kind is Ryan Reynolds. You can say all of this in a joking way, but the fact that you actually are saying this over and over multiple times in an interview, it's obvious that he really, really did not like this dude. He even then would make a comment a few years later about his new no assholes policy in approaching projects. Here we go. And by the way, shout out to this amazing article with all of these links just right at the ready.
Talk till the sun goes down.
Please
Comes up
do.
the next morning about this guy. He's
Everybody, shh.
obviously, guys, incredibly talented. He's had this incredible career. It's just getting started, as I like to say, for Chris. But I feel like also, reputations, especially in Hollywood, they precede us. And even though we've never worked together, I had heard that he was an awesome guy. And
This is not about,
we
this
have
is
a
about Chris
policy
Evans.
for $7 Productions, and just for me too as well. Like we've reached this point in our career where like we don't want to work with anymore.
You know what he said to me when
We don't want to work with assholes anymore. What's interesting about Chris Evans, you guys, I didn't put this together. Chris Evans is actually Jenny Slate's ex-boyfriend. Interesting, right? Interesting. I wonder if they sat there and just like talked shit. Okay. So he continues to talk about how he doesn't like to work with assholes. And then even during the Red Notice promo tour, he suddenly acknowledged that his comments always delivered with a smile or laugh because he's like always talking like, but he definitely, was talking about bad things about Ryan Reynolds. So what changed between them? It says, what changed between his little cameo on Hobbs and Shaw, where he thought that they just had this fun little relationship, to what was happening on Red Notice? It says, well, Dwayne Johnson most likely got firsthand experience of what we now know to be the Ryan Reynolds special, a hostile takeover, which he did on Deadpool. Okay. What's his first step in taking over? She says, rewriting the script. Ryan Reynolds' forced unauthorized script, that he calls improvisation. He has a reputation doing this. And it says, in fact, one would think the promotional tour for that movie, Red Notice, is actually his improvisational appreciation tour. Nearly every single interviewer, regardless of who they were interviewing, asked about improv on set and the movie's pop culture references. Okay. This was literally what the interviews were always about. And the answers from everyone being interviewed, which is Gal Gadot, Dwayne Johnson, and then Rawson Thurber, the writer-director, the answers from all four are telling. At first, the cast implied that everyone participated in the process of trying to make each other laugh. It was kind of like a unannounced game, But across interviews, it became clear that Ryan Reynolds was actually the only one doing it. Here we go. Hold on. Let me just find it because there's so many tabs open from this article. Here we go. This is Gal Gadot in 2021 doing her interview.
It was so delightful. They're both so funny and fun to be with. And I guess that was the fun part and also the most challenging one, because I had to keep a game face and not break out loud laughing, which I always did. So that was the best part. No, I'm telling you, the hardest part was not breaking takes. And Ryan is so good. And he was literally like a shark, just waiting around the corner, waiting to break us. And it was.
So we know that Ryan Reynolds was definitely in there, constantly trying to make people laugh and trying to, what she says, break us as a joke. She reiterated that he was doing it on purpose. And she even provided details in another interview saying that Ryan Reynolds was trying out different accents, improvising jokes, making faces. And the shark comment wasn't an overstatement. She again ascribes an aggressive nature to his approach. She says, I'm super easy to break. And when I try to hold it in, my eyes start to twitch. So if Ryan would see that start to twitch, he would punch me with jokes until I broke. And he himself admitted that he was trying to target his co-stars because he's done it to Wesley Snipes before. And he even says, I was preying on Dwayne a little bit. DJ, I've known him for 20 plus years now, and he gets his little eye twitch when he's about to crack. So does Gal, actually. So I would kind of exploit that and pounce on it. It was more the spirit of competition than anything else. I wonder if that's why Blake grabbed the guy with the balls. I really wonder. And yes, Dwayne Johnson confirmed that he comes on set ready to work. And as funny and brilliant as he is, he's an intense actor. But it got to a point where you would say something and I would say something and he would say it in a way that he knew I liked, which was actually needling me when the camera was on me. And fuck it, I got it. That's it. It all comes out. This is what Dwayne Johnson says. And then when Ross and Thurber, the writer, was asked about making changes to the script based on cast personalities, he was tactful. Of course, as you go, the actors have ideas and thoughts. They have to play the character. Typically, they're really good. Sometimes they're just different. And I've learned to kind of embrace those and try to find out. It says, but here's the kicker. All of the so-called improvisation, a complete lie. None of Ryan Reynolds' lines were improvised, and most likely none of his work ever was. We know this is a lie because Reynolds' cast members in Free Guy, and even Ryan himself, have spoken openly about his methods. His co-stars, Jodie Comer and Joe Keery, inadvertently disclosed that Reynolds pre-writes multiple improvised lines ahead of time and delivers a different version in every take of a scene. He'll be on set and there's a certain kind of line that's a joke and that he's maybe done a couple of times. He's like, right, I want to try something new. He'll have like 5 ready to go. That's how they say that he does that. And Reynolds himself stated that he pre-writes his jokes. He says, yeah, I play around all day. I usually write a bunch of alts, he says, for different jokes. And then on something like this, I just fire them off and let them figure out which ones they feel fit best. And you can see this in his blooper reel for Free Guy, which basically shows him using different versions of these jokes, which I'm not going to force you guys to have to watch. And it says that this ruffled the feathers of one of his co-stars on Free Guy, Taika Waititi. In an interview, Taika actually calls out Reynolds, which boxed him into confessing the truth. It says it's a balance. When I've worked with actors there's a lot of actors who want the improv take and they say, can we do an improv take? And then the little alarm bells start ringing all over. Anyway, kind of saying in this interview, it says, Taika says, I think it's kind of a waste of time. He says that about, doing the improvising for a sake of it. And then Ryan Reynolds chimes in, me too. This is in an interview. Let's see if it's all right here, because if it is, then that would be interesting to watch how they all talk about him.
Improvising for the sake of it. I think it's a waste of time a lot of the time.
Me too.
Everyone else. See people going, okay. And let's face it, a lot of this ad-libbing are people just reeling off a list of stuff they wrote the night before.
I know.
That's
And he admits it, right? He admits it. That's me. I just write everything from the night before. Okay. Now, and then he also wrote lines for Gal Gadot in Red Notice, and it's spoken about. An interview says to Ryan Reynolds, you were writing sassy lines for Gal too. And Ryan Reynolds responded, I tend to write a bunch of one-liners that people can have or not have. It's up to them. But no, it's more than that. As one example, in a scene where Gal Gadot electrocutes Dwayne Johnson's balls to torture him, where's Blake Lively? Reynolds told Gal Gadot to sing the 1965 classic Downtown as she does it. Is it a coincidence that it's a scene where Johnson is humiliated specifically regarding his genitals? Probably not. Is it burdensome when Ryan Reynolds chooses to improv copyrighted material that production has then paid to use? Yes. It should surprise no one that nearly all of Ryan Reynolds' forced rewrites were jokes at Dwayne Johnson's expense. Although the straight man role in a comedy duo is important, which is the role that Dwayne Johnson typically plays, there's still room for back and forth. And Dwayne Johnson has previously talked about how he would encourage Jason Statham to roast him on Hobbs and Shaw. He does the same with Kevin Hart. But they both go back and forth in all of these. Yet Reynolds' humor in Red Notice is completely one-sided. The bigger problem isn't just that Reynolds is pre-writing material. It's that by veering off script and deliberately trying to make people laugh by taking them by surprise, he's ruining the take. Anytime anyone on set laughs, you can hear the barista actor push out an obligatory laugh or two in the coffee joke montage. They have to redo this, which means production goes into overtime, which means crew is paid at a multiplied rate. But Reynolds doesn't care about the budget for films like this. He's not the producer. He's not footing the bill. He's only focused on one thing, and that's one thing only, getting his rewritten material into the final cut, and he pouts if it doesn't happen.
had this incredible salt mine. So yeah, it was logistically incredible, but for us, it's more about character. You want to infuse as much character as possible in action sequences. Otherwise they're sort of mind numbing. So you want it to have humor and charm and sort of weirdness involved, which we were able to do. But there's one line that I don't think it's in the movie, but where it's the moment we shot one moment and then we shut down for 7 months for the pandemic, but we resumed right into the next moment. And there's this scene where I'm looking at Dwayne and he's looking at me, and he finally says, what are you looking at? And I said, nothing. You look 7 months older. And it was literally the moment we picked up shooting 7 months later. And it doesn't stay in the movie, but it's in the middle of that whole underground bunker action sequence.
That's a funny line. I already got to stop. I'm just going to say, man, congrats on the movie. Like I said, it's going to be.
So he's talking about how he's constantly adding his lines in, no problem. And it wastes a lot of time. Okay, obviously. But he still got to get his rewrites into Red Notice. There's a ton of improv and one-liners in every scene. And then it says productions are fully aware of what he's doing. And he was explicitly told during Red Notice to stop doing his improv and to stick to the script. But he deflected the blame by putting it on all the other actors. He says, every day on set, we wasted so much of Netflix's money laughing. Like they actually had to police us a little. People would come onto set and be like, you guys need to get it to the hell together and say some of the lines. When the MC of the premiere responded with, they have the money to waste, Reynolds agreed, saying, that's what I said, which apparently they don't take kindly to. So he does this kind of thing where he kind of makes fun of people, laughs, ruins people's days, changes the schedule, and just laughing it off. It's very Nick Vile. Okay. So Reynolds and Reynolds alone was told to stop overwriting the script on both movies, because we know that he even said that Sean has experienced this with him too, where they were told him to stop, but he has the audacity to pretend he doesn't rewrite scripts when an interview asked him about it. Someone said there was a script, but when you came in, do you just sit down for 2 days and Ryan Reynolds it? How does that work? Ryan Reynolds responds, offended, no. But Ross and Thurber, the writer of that movie, said that Ryan Reynolds rewrote a staggering 10% to 15% of the movie via his improv. So, he also apparently got to change a lot around a lot of the car chase scenes and the scene direction, turn it into a chase scene on foot instead of cars, etc. And it says Ross and Thurber, this director, may actually be the reason that Ryan Reynolds didn't successfully hijack the entire movie from Dwayne Johnson. Reynolds' forced rewritten lines weren't just an affront to him as a director, but also as a writer, because it was his script that Ryan Reynolds was overwriting. And this guy, Ross and Thurber, had a strong relationship with Dwayne Johnson from before. So now their relationship was like a lot stronger, and Ryan Reynolds was coming in there, and it was frustrating to everyone. And it says, why, if being a writer is Reynolds' true heart's desire, does he not pursue credit for all of the many projects he's written or rewritten? Aside from projects relating to Deadpool 2 or Deadpool and Wolverine, he has no major film writing credits, including for Free Guy. He doesn't have a writing credit for Deadpool, etc. So why? And this writer, Eumonia Dike, says because of his least favorite thing, the rules. Okay. The writer's strikes and Writers Guild America. Okay. He learned very early that during a writer's strike, he would have an opportunity, an actor, to take control over a production, control he would never had happened, because he was filming X-Men Origins Wolverine during the 2007-8 writer's strike. He said, we were in the middle of production. There were no writers, and every line I have in the movie, I just wrote myself, because in the script, it says Wade Wilson shows up, talks really fast. I was like, well, what am I supposed to do with that? So he was painting this as a downside, but clearly he was so into this and his authorship. And then the experience taught him that writers who receive formal writing credits from the WGA are bound by WGA rules that say they cannot write or edit during strikes. But he's a non-writer, right? So he can step into the space left empty by those strikes. The rules get thornier in what's called hyphenate, she says. People like Ross and Marshall Thurber on Red Notice, who is a writer-director. If there was a strike during production, he would not have been allowed to make changes to the script, but Ryan could, okay? So this has been an issue during like in SAG and with the writers, et cetera. And during the 2023 strike, it says Ryan Reynolds is known for working as a writer on the films he produces and stars in, says one article, admitting that industry insiders are all well aware that he has a reputation of performing uncredited writing work. Under the current strike rules, while a non-writer, director, or producer can make small adjustments, Ryan Reynolds would not be able to. So what did Ryan Reynolds do during our last strike in 2023? He rewrote the script for It Ends With Us. And he concealed those changes by delivering them through Blake, which is why we didn't know that Ryan Reynolds wrote that rooftop scene until Blake let that out, of course, on that red carpet. Hold on, water break. It says, now after examining Free Guy and Red Notice, you know the answer. It's because he's always skirted the WGA rules in what seems to be a blatant and deliberate choice of avoiding formal writing credit in order to expand power on set. And a lot of people think he was even writing Blake Lively's text messages, she says, you know? Okay. Now we get to Dude. This is a long episode, but I hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know in the comments if you're into this, if you like this article. I have to keep going, right? Described by one interviewer as an empty-headed bodybuilder, Dude is the opposite, a composite of Ryan Reynolds' face digitally grafted on the body of bodybuilder Aaron W. Reed. Dude doesn't get introduced until the final fight scene. So we'll need a few additional details about Free Guy's plot to understand why he appears so late in the story and the real reason why Ryan Reynolds wrote him into the script. And just in case you guys are curious what Dude looks like, he looks like this guy. Okay, that's Aaron Reed's body. That's Ryan Reynolds' scary face. And that's your final shot. So I'm not going to get into the details of Free Guy. I feel like that's really, really far, but that's really hard. But if you have seen the movie, basically, you know, Free Guy figures out that he is in a video game. And since Antoine, who is that Taiki guy that we just talked about, is the main villain, the audience expects to see Guy and Antoine face off in the game worlds at the end. Yet, spoiler alert for Free Guy, instead of entering the game as an avatar of himself, like of the other people, Antoine deploys Dude, who is an NPC replacement for Guy to take advantage of his viral popularity. Dude is unintelligent. Absurdly unintelligent, so unintelligent that instead of fully finished thoughts, he uses placeholder words in his sentences. The explanation is that Dude wasn't finished being developed when Antoine rushed to send him into the game. So he's this underdeveloped, not fully finished kind of bully guy. It says in a promo clip for the film, Dude raises his hand in a wave and says, friendly gesture. In the film, Dude introduces himself at the beginning of the fight by literally saying the word catchphrase. As he starts to beat up Guy, he says, there are 3 things I love in life: kicking ass, TBD, third thing here. So they're making him sound like he is like devoid of a brain. Okay. And in the final exchange, Guy, this is Ryan Reynolds' character, who is the ultimate nice guy in the story, makes it clear that he even thinks Dude is adult. You're great, Dude. I just missed my best friend, Guy says, talking about how Buddy was deleted from the game during the final conflict. Dude replies, I could bench press a sentence. Yeah, that's totally not the same thing at all, Guy says. Dude laughs and says the words, harder laughter. Okay. Reynolds didn't just feature Dude in Free Guy. He also created a completely separate 2-minute clip that he uploaded to his YouTube channel called Next Level Reynolds. Let's just watch a little bit of it. And I'm sorry to put you through this again, but as you know, it's just to give you the full story of this doof.
Dude, gotta activate. Dude.
We're still working on him.
I worked on him myself. He's perfect. Drop in, Dude, now.
Who are you?
Catchphrase.
Catchphrase?
What? And I don't think one up yet. Although catchphrase is a pretty cool catchphrase.
Am I a role model? I don't know. I mean, I do know that you hear about actors complaining about how hard their movie workouts are. And I'll tell you, I don't have time for that. I've been at this 1 week, and I gotta tell you, it's coming in nicely. I start every day with a protein bomb. It's made exclusively of human muscle. It's completely organic and illegal. Acting is mind over matter.
It's 2 minutes of basically making fun of this character. Dude. Okay. And it says, I fathered our youngest daughter when I was this muscular. The child was born full grown and wearing shoes, which was weird for Blake. Then it says, this article says, let's break down more of the clues that dude was inspired by or based on Dwayne Johnson. First, the use of the term catchphrase. Now, the creative team of Free Guy might try to argue that other characters all have catchphrases, meaning dude wouldn't be an anomaly, but they're incorrect. These phrases are just part of the character's dialogue. You know who does have a lot of catchphrases and nicknames? Dwayne Johnson. He has so many, in fact, that he trademarked 25 of his own catchphrases. And bodybuilders aren't known for having catchphrases. Professional wrestlers like Dwayne Johnson are. Second are the phrases dude uses, starting with, there's 3 things I love. Johnson frequently uses the sentence formula of referring to several things and then listing them out. Another frequent language choice is saying the word boom, which Reynolds says as at the end of the Next Level Reynolds video that you guys just saw. And another one is kicking ass, which Dwayne Johnson says all the time in its many variations. And we literally have one clip after another of Dwayne Johnson saying kicking ass in different ways, right? Whether it's a caption or he talks about it in interviews, he's always saying those words. Third is his physical appearance, okay? Reynolds wore a dental prosthetic to make his teeth look bigger. The tattoo of the blue shirt, the joke being that dude is too large to fit into a real one, is the same location as Johnson's on his left chest. It's worth noting that this is a Polynesian tribal tattoo that has cultural significance to Dwayne Johnson, who has Samoan and Black heritage. And finally, dude wears a gold chain that looks similar to the one Johnson wears in one of the most widely known images of his career. And it's this one. Okay, where he's wearing a black turtleneck, gold chain, and fanny pack, elbow resting on a napkin to prevent his shirt from getting dirty. And fourth is popping one pecs in a rhythmic dance, which I just showed you guys in that clip, which Johnson has been doing for years. I didn't know that, but apparently that's a thing that Johnson has been doing in many of his movies for years. Here we go. Here's an example of it.
Man, I've lived in some of the most dangerous neighborhoods. Do you think that means anything to me? No, I've got another story for you. We're going to go out here and show you exactly what we stand for. When I say kick anybody's ass, I mean by any means necessary.
That's so funny. Okay. And fifth is actors complaining how hard their movie workouts are. Johnson has openly discussed his workouts and diet throughout his career, of course, as you guys know. Sixth is Ryan Reynolds titling that video Next Level Reynolds. Although this could easily refer to Guy leveling up in the game, it could also refer to Johnson's 2019 movie Jumanji, The Next Level, which released a year and a half before. And finally, it says there's a matter of unicorns. Yes, unicorns. Recall that we mentioned the importance of Johnson starring in Central Intelligence with Kevin Hart. We talked about that earlier in 2016. Johnson's character in the story, who's bullied in high school, manages to retain his childlike interests after he grows up to become a ruthless and effective CIA agent. And one of those interests is unicorns. He says, I'm big into corns, wearing a blue t-shirt that says, always be with you, with a unicorn against a rainbow backdrop. And this is that clip. Sorry, 1 second. Get me out of here. Okay. So we have so many details that are so similar, right? Because one of the weapons Ryan Reynolds uses in the final fight scene against Dude in Free Guy is a rainbow unicorn pickaxe from the game Fortnite, which leaves a trail of rainbow light as he swings it. It's unusual because the instant recognizability of Captain America's shield, the Hulk's green fist, and Star Wars lightsaber and theme song, the rainbow unicorn pickaxe from Fortnite is not very popular. It's kind of more niche, which is strange. It feels very intentional. Okay. Ironically, Dwayne Johnson's unicorn shirt is worn because he's being bullied, and he speaks about in his character that he was also bullied in junior high. You know, he and Kevin Hart are big on talking about anti-bullying. However, Dude's character may not really bring up red flags if you look at it all separately, but if you look at it all together, it's so clear that the Dude is Dwayne Johnson, just like Nicepool was Justin Baldoni. And it was intended for one reason and one reason only, and it was to mock them. Because Dude is abnormally stupid, right? Reynolds was always asked in interviews, who's funnier between you and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? And Reynolds says, probably the guy with less muscle, because he has more time to mature those aspects of his nurture those aspects of his psyche. And Ryan Reynolds also said this about Dude. He's like some half-finished kind of character that wasn't ready for prime time. So they ship him into the game way too early to fight me. And I love the idea that I'm fighting a semi-brain-dead version of myself. It's all just muscle. All show and no go. Huh. Yet underneath the contempt for Johnson's intelligence, this writer writes, Eumonia, she says, and comedy skills is something deeper, envy. A deep-seated envy that is born out of an even deeper insecurity, just like Nicepool was described in Deadpool and Wolverine as immaculate, 20% more muscular, and an angel was given a larger bulge on screen. Reynolds' description of Dude's appearance has similar praise. A better me, an upgraded version, gorgeous, and with an extra 180 pounds of muscle on top of what I already have, he says about him in the script. Huh. If you're thinking, well, at least Ryan Reynolds didn't kill a fictional version of Dwayne Johnson on screen like he did Nicepool. No, he did. He killed both of them. Okay. Did Dwayne Johnson know at the time that Dude was going to be in the movie? Probably not. Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy explained that when they made their cameo request to their famous friends, they asked them to send over audio via voice memos from their phones and put the audio clip straight out into the movie. No need to be on set or see the script. So Dwayne Johnson actually did a cameo for Free Guy, his voice. So he used his voice in a character that was killed in the movie. Committing acts of fictionalized violence against his peers is nothing new for Reynolds. He has previously confessed in the context of Nicepool that he has a theme of killing versions of himself in his movies. He says, I like acting out envy in that way because it's a very normal human feeling and it's something that's actually easy to play. And Deadpool is the guy who can get away with it because his coping mechanism is against shame, etc. He also says that he derives satisfaction from his role playing of murder and how it leads him to take things from his object of envy. He says, I loved killing Nicepool because as much as he projected that he was wonderful, he was a terrible human being. Let's watch this.
But I loved killing Nicepool because Nicepool's, as much as he projected that he was wonderful, he was a terrible human being. And I like that Deadpool gets to lean into that anti-hero thing and gets to lean into his childlike desires. I want that.
That's creepy. Just saying. I want that. So it sounds like when Ryan Reynolds is envious of his peers, he turns to humor, mockery, and violence. And in Baldoni's case, he combined the two. In Johnson's case, he kept them separate. But it's pretty clear that this was created for that. He clearly, according to this author, it says, Ryan Reynolds clearly wishes he had Johnson's and Baldoni's physique. But like Baldoni, that's just the tip of the iceberg in his insecurities. The true competition between Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds is much bigger than that. We have the sexiest man alive covers. They have Dwayne Johnson became the most followed American man on social media at 200 million followers in 2020. Both of them have alcohol brands. Terramana Tequila sold 300,000 cases in its first year and then 600,000 cases in its second year, whereas Aviation Gin only sold 100,000 cases in its first year. Also financial value. They're both two of the highest paid actors on the planet, but Johnson eclipses Reynolds at an almost exponential pace. He has received in 2020 $87.5 million as an actor. And in that same year, Ryan placed number 18 with only 71.5 million in earnings. So Dwayne Johnson is kind of outbeating Ryan Reynolds everywhere you look. And this article also says that there's most likely a racial component to Reynolds' envy as well. By the numbers, Johnson is the number one male actor for audiences of color, and Reynolds is the number one male actor for white men. Okay? So finally, her point in this entire phenomenal article says the goal for control is keep your competitors down. So Sean Levy repeatedly tells interviewers that dude was in the script for Free Guide from day one, but that's a lie. Okay, we know that it's a lie. In reconstructing a timeline of the film's development and production, the real story becomes clear. They rewrote the script in July 2018. They say revisions took about 7 to 8 months. But at that same time, their co-star was brought on board. And they didn't have a lot in terms of hiring Taika Waititi. He says, Sean Levy actually says it was Ryan or it was Blake that had Taiki cast in the movie. And Waititi says, well, I don't even know if Ryan was even aware. I was on a phone call and Sean, I felt like you were maybe pressured into using me by one of those people at CAA. I don't know. I didn't have to audition. It's the first time it's ever happened. So the point of that is that they basically said that we need to create an entire new movie once Taika Waititi came on board. So they had to rewrite. Reynolds forced script rewrites throughout production, throughout casting. So they're liars when they say that the script was completely done. And okay, and it says, whatever, it goes on and on about Dwayne Johnson and how they had to kind of fight at the end. But overall, the important thing here is that he basically, oh my gosh, there's so much, and I don't want to overdo it here. I've already overdone it so much. But it says that they filmed that behind this. Okay, studios shut down Red Notice on March 14th, 2020, but Ryan Reynolds was still working on his projects. We know that because he's behind the scenes as a writer, is like a fake writer. And even in a behind the scenes featurette about making the guy versus dude scene, it was revealed that they were filming the motion capture scenes of Ryan Reynolds' face 8 months after they finished filming the scene on the beach. So that means all those words and everything was done after. It says with Ryan's amazing skills in the egg and his improvisational skills, were actually changing the dialogue after we shot the original footage. So we know that they filmed way after they finished Red Notice. And ultimately what this comes down, and it's so much detail, so I really, really have to cut this down. But basically it says, believe it or not, Red Notice was most likely not Reynolds' final goal when it came to Dwayne Johnson. He wanted something bigger. And essentially in that movie Hobbs and Shaw, Reynolds technically had 2 cameos in that, not 1. The one that's already been discussed is the one that he did, Agent Locke, where he came in there and kind of like made fun of Dwayne Johnson. I showed you guys that scene earlier. But he also provided a voiceover cameo in that movie as the director of Etienne, the ultimate villain in this story, concealed by a voice distortion until the end of the movie when Ryan Reynolds is revealed to be the source. Well, that franchise planned on expanding his role in the next movie. And given what we know about Ryan Reynolds, that expansion is nothing compared to the degree of expansion he planned on enacting once he got his hands on the script. So, which most likely during Red Notice, Reynolds intentionally tried to reignite the feud between Johnson and Vin Diesel by forcibly inserting a joke about Vin Diesel. And he tried to kind of fight, create drama there between The Rock and everyone else. And he's making jokes about that. Someone even asked him, are you in the middle of this feud between Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Vin Diesel? And he says, I genuinely don't care. You can put me in the middle of it and you can put me beside it. I was really just acknowledging and playing with the cultural landscape in that moment. I know very little about the feud except that there is one. Okay. And he continued to try to sabotage Dwayne Johnson. Okay. That was one way, trying to create feuds, trying to take over his movie, and also his production company, $7, because Dwayne Johnson's production company, just like Justin Baldoni's Wayfarer, was producing these films. I'm sorry. It was producing these films. But who runs $7 is a man named Hiram Garcia. And it says the Wrap, that article that came out about the hit piece against Dwayne Johnson, also attacked that man, Garcia. It painted him as inexperienced, incapable of running a set despite years of experience. And many other people who were also working on that film weren't mentioned at all, but it's just Garcia. Just Garcia, right? And we wonder, did Garcia give Ryan Reynolds a hard time? So finally, at the end of the day, the goal here is that Ryan Reynolds is truly, in my opinion, and in this article's opinion that just literally never ends, it's truly, he is a man of danger. He comes on sets. There's workplace accidents that happen on his sets. He rewrites scripts not according to the rules. He overshadows other directors, actors, producers. He tries to, as Gal Gadot said, break them, punch them down until they kind of submit to his jokes. There's also, we've seen motorcycle accidents. We've seen all kinds of things. And there's literally, we talked about this woman that died on his set. And even though there was a woman that died on his set, he still even made a joke about this. He made a joke in a Maximum Effort kind of like funny skit. He even talks about all of these accidents. We've talked about the fact that people are, getting hurt on these films. And it doesn't matter. He makes jokes about them in stunts. In funny little skits, and he doesn't care. It says in one of the online skits Reynolds made to promote Free Guy, he created an NPC personal injury lawyer named Ryan Reynolds, who defends the rights of fellow NPCs when they get hurt in the workplace. Here we go. Not sure if you guys have seen this, but this was something that he did to promote his other movie. And remember, this is after someone died on his set.
Have you or someone you know been injured in an accident? You need the offices of Ryan Reynolds, the #1 Xbox NPC personal injury law firm in all of Free City. Have you been shot at, body slammed, flamethrower, hit by a train, or emotionally demeaned? We can tell you if you've got a case right over the phone, but trust me, you do.
I was left with serious lower back injuries. Ryan Reynolds got me the settlement I deserved.
I'm an attorney. I went to law school.
Call 1-555 ? Nervous emoji peace sign. Ryan Reynolds is the official law firm of Free Guy. Only in theater.
Seems like he just thinks it's all fun and games. He doesn't take any of it seriously. It goes on and on and on. Okay. And then the end of the article says this. What I've learned from Ryan is don't say no, says Sean Levy, Baldoni revealed in his deposition that Sean Levy called him during It Ends With Us to give advice in what felt like an attempt to pressure Baldoni into giving Lively and Reynolds the control that they wanted. A betting person would guess that Sean Levy advised Baldoni to also not say no. Overall, Ryan Reynolds' approach to life is main character syndrome, manifested at a literal level. It is clear, based on years of behavior, that Ryan Reynolds believes those around him exist only to recite and perform the script he writes for them, whether on screen or off, which is an expectation that he seems to detest so strongly when it's asked of him. And then, should they refuse to comply or fail to achieve his desired results, he gets vicious, mocking them and depriving them of their humanity, and telling them that they deserve it. Isn't he just a class act, the MC said about Reynolds during the Red Notice premiere? Oh, come on, Reynolds responded. I'm a monster. Trust me. It would seem that at this time, he's being honest. Wow, wow, wow. Let me tell you something. That article is so well done, so in-depth, and so clear about the abuse that Ryan Reynolds actually creates on sets, but by way of smiling and joking and laughter. Is that not the most incredible Ryan Reynolds takedown article of your life? And honestly, Dwayne Johnson, I was talking about this with my husband last night, actually just last night, because we were talking about Matt Lauer. And Dylan, my 13-year-old, was like, isn't it true that kind of every man that's really powerful and successful is kind of an asshole, like kind of a douche? And I said, so many people are, but there's some actors I'm sure that are kind of nice and don't have a bad reputation. And Lance is like, what about The Rock? This was last night before I knew I was even going to talk about this article. And I said, yeah, I don't think that The Rock really has a bad reputation. And if he's ever been short with anyone or anything like that, I've never heard him not be apologetic about it or try to kind of like make up for it. He goes after nice, successful, handsome, smart, talented, good-looking people. Ryan Reynolds is an insecure person. And it's truly, truly shameful. It's shameful to see. All right, you guys. I want to call it. Oh my God. Coffer says, thank you, Priscilla in India. Yeah, I mean, I had not seen this article anywhere, and I thought it was just so good. I really wanted to do a deep dive on it. You guys, thank you so much for being here. The article will be linked right when I close down this show. I'm going to put the article right below. It's a Medium article. It is such an incredible read, and it has links to every single example that she mentions in it. So truly read this article, and if you're on Medium, follow her and like her and comment on it. Thank you, Eumonia Dike, for your incredible research. And you guys, thank you. I'm going to talk about other stuff tomorrow. I am so talked out right now, but I adore you guys. Thank you for subscribing, and I'll see you tomorrow, Friday. Bye.